All right, great. We are live and happy new year. I hope your new year has been starting off well for this 2026 season. I hope you're setting great goals and having a different view of what can happen and what can be accomplished in 2026. Well, we're going to get started with this week in supervision. I've got a lot to cover concerning some of the things that what I talk about in this week in supervision is a lot of the things that we have been discussing throughout the week in supervision. And so if you're looking to learn about, clinical techniques and things like that, I'm hoping that this will be helpful for you in your groups or in your personal practice. But the title for today, to just jump right in, is It's Not Sabotage, It's Self Protection. It's not sabotage, it's self protection. Now, this is a deal, right? So, um, what is the difference between sabotage and self protection? Because one might look like the other, or sometimes they can just be confusing. And us as clinicians, we as clinicians have to be the ones to be able to decipher if there's sabotage going on with our clients or if it's just self protection, meaning there's a reason behind the actions. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. Now, we're going to start with a test question. We talked about a number of things: seasonal affective disorder, some other topics, and things like that. But I'm just going to bring you this piece right here because this goes in depth enough. And I think you'll learn a lot about trauma and how to look at trauma when you check this out, right? So we have a scenario here, test question. We always like to go over test questions. This one is credit. Ooh, I'm glad I didn't forget, a Pocket Prep. Okay, this is not mine. This is Pocket Prep. If you do their little free thing, you can check it out and then maybe go and join if you're preparing for your exam. Jake starts to miss appointments with you after achieving his goals, but prior to this happening, he had great attendance and attendance and had made substantial progress. Jake's missed appointments are most likely an addiction or an indication of A, Jake's codependency, which needs to be addressed as a treatment issue, B, Jake's readiness to terminate services, or C, Jake's dissatisfaction from or with the achieved outcomes. What do you believe the answer is to this question? All right. I want you to just think for yourself what you think the answer is. And we're going to talk about exactly what the answer is in just a moment. If I can get my mic check right. Okay. So the answer for this particular question is none other than B, Jake's readiness to terminate services. And this is really important. If you have done psychotherapy, you'll notice there's certain clients, man, that you start to work with, and they really, really want to see you. Some want to see you on a week to week, some want to see you more than once a week, right? Because they have things that they're trying to work out. But something happens over time. And what you'll notice is that over time, if you're following your treatment planning and paying attention to the goals, you get closer and closer to reaching your goals. And so then you, as the clinician, you want to be the lead in stretching things out. So if we were doing a week to week, we want to move maybe to every other week or something like that, right? But what happens too, if we're not careful, and it's not always a negative thing because sometimes our our our, our clients get the breakthroughs early, but we want to be mindful, right? But what we will see sometimes is they start canceling appointments. They never canceled appointments for the whole 3 or 4 months that you've had them. All of a sudden, they're calling in, canceling appointments. Many times, this is an indication that we're getting close to termination, okay? Or may need to terminate pretty much right away because they many times have received what they needed. Now, I can elaborate more on that, but I want to just make sure that we cover everything we're trying to cover. Now, this is not always the case, but that's for you to determine, okay? And if you're new, sometimes you might be like, "Oh, they're stopped or they just stopped coming." I asked my group, I was like, "What happens more for you, that your client terminates you or that you terminate your client?" And it was interesting getting the feedback on that. And terminate is a word that we don't really want to use with clients. We need to change that, don't we? Terminate. Hey, I'm about to terminate you. Terminate? Okay. And so for this one, the answer is B for this one, right? So, but let's scroll through a little bit. Okay, and I have another scenario that I want you to check out. Yeah, I didn't really want you to have the answer to right away, but you know, you may have seen it. Uh, but here is the scenario here, all right? Um, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with the ACE study. Now, the results of the ACE study, the ACE testing tools and things like that are very important to consider implementing into your practice. I try to use them on intake with each client because they tell you a lot about trauma that individuals have experienced that might many times take many sessions to get out if you even get it out. But taking that can give you a perspective of how you need to move forward in treatment. It gives you alert. It alerts you to a number of different things. But a lot of people don't know, and the ACE pretty much studies trauma. The ACE is about trauma and recognizing trauma, understanding the impact of it, and understanding effective ways of treating trauma. Okay. So we'll just stick with that here. But a lot of us don't know how the ACE study was started. It kind of started, in a sense, by mistake, right? Let's read about this scenario here. A multidisciplinary program treats adults with severe obesity using medical, nutritional, and behavioral interventions. Many clients initially engage well, lose weight, significant weight, and show clear medical improvement. However, after substantial weight loss, some clients begin missing appointments. We just talked about this, right? They disengage from treatment and later regain the weight. Now that's interesting. You've been losing weight. You came there to lose weight. This was a study in the particular situation with the ACE study to examine how to help individuals lose weight. We're reaching the goal, but then the clients are disengaging in appointments. What is going on here? Okay. This occurs without changes to the treatment plan or without evidence of dissatisfaction or burnout. So they're not just fatigued of the therapist or fatigued of therapy. Um, and it doesn't seem that, oh, we've reached the goal so that we're now ready to terminate. Okay. So early research that later informed ACE study observers a similar pattern. What was the most accurate explanation for this disengagement? What do you think is the reason that these individuals terminated on their own? Okay. Clients lost motivation once their physical health improved and no longer perceived a need for continued treatment. The treatment program B became too demanding after initial success, leading to burnout and noncompliance. C, weight loss removed a protective coping mechanism, which led to the resurfacing of unresolved trauma and emotional distress that clients were not prepared to manage. Or D, clients disengage because obesity is primarily driven by poor insight rather than psychological factors. What do you think the answer is here? We're going to skip right to it. And so the answer in this case was C. There was a very interesting phenomenon that they came across. And what happened, they learned that weight loss removed a protective mechanism, a protective coping mechanism. So it's seeming like in this situation that they're sabotaging themselves. Oh man, there's a pattern to this. Sabotaging themselves as they are developing or experiencing progress, weight loss. They're starting to look at themselves and be happier with because the individuals in this experience, they were morbidly obese. Okay. And so they started to see these changes, but then they stopped. What would cause someone who is having great things to happen in their life to stop going in that direction or create a situation for sabotage that changes the whole dynamic of the success that they've been experiencing? This, you might think about this and say, hey, this just doesn't sound right. This sounds ridiculous, but our clients are doing it every day. And many times it's an unconscious pursuit. But let's talk a little bit about what actually happened. Oh, you know what? I don't think I've been sharing my screen. Daggone it. But we're gonna keep it rolling. We're gonna keep it rolling. I'm so sorry, but this is the question here. I just read it for you, and these were the scenarios, right? And so, what I want to do, hold on one second. What I want to do is share with you the answer to this question is some added perspective. I've been away for a while because I'm always experiencing technical difficulties, so y'all have to forgive me. I try to make it happen. All right, so let's get to what's this phenomenon here. Well, for those of us that don't know much about the A study, boy, you need to stand by because what happened and what was causing these individuals to to stop treatment is going to surprise you if you don't already know. And I'm going to take an attempt here to share with you a video. In this video, this is a quick clip with individual name. I can't ever say his name like I have trouble with names sometimes. His name is Vincent Felitti. Uh and I may have Felitti. Um and he is he is responsible and known for being in charge of the development of the ACE study. Okay. And let's find out what he was experiencing with clients who started treatment and then stopped.
And by 1985, we were seeing about 1,500 people a year in the program. We were very disturbed by the high dropout rate that we had. What was particularly disturbing was the people dropping out were the ones who successfully were losing weight. And that really drove us nuts. And ultimately, in despair, I started interviewing a large number of people who were dropping out in the course of successfully losing weight. And having no idea what I was looking for, did basically a social worker's timeline interview. What did you weigh when you were born, when you were in kindergarten, sixth grade, if a woman, when you began to menstruate, etc., etc. And by accident, I put in a question in this sequence: how old were you when you first became sexually active? And I misspoke myself early on and asked some woman how much she weighed when she first became sexually active. And she said 40 pounds and then blurted out it was with my father and started sobbing. And I remember thinking to myself, second incest case I've seen in 24 years of practice. Little did I know. 10 days later, I ran into the same thing and fortunately had the wit to conclude that I was not likely starting the third 24-year cycle within 10 days. And as I pursued the issue, really became quite disturbed because it seemed every other person I was talking with was giving me a history of childhood sexual abuse. And I remember, strongly feeling this really can't be true. People would know. Someone would have told me in medical school if this were true. 186 patients later, it turned out not to be every other person. It turned out to be 55%. And I remember still being concerned perhaps I was introducing observer bias in some way and eliciting this needlessly, falsely, incorrectly. And so I got 5 other people to interview 100 additional patients, and they turned up the same information. And then...
All right, we're going to stop it there. I'm going to try to clip this video for you. Fascinating. Very fascinating. What Dr. Belletti is observing, what he observed is that, hey, a number of the individuals in his study, again, this is a study of those who were morbidly obese. They were looking for treatment, looking to resolve some of the issues that they had been having with obesity, hadn't come there for psychotherapy or anything like that, was just looking to try to solve some problems with weight. And by accident, he was able to discover that so many of these individuals had experienced sexual abuse. In his study, about 55% plus had experienced sexual abuse, childhood sexual trauma. Okay. So once we try to break this down, and we all we have to do is break down what they have explained to us is a few things, right? Some things that look like sabotage are often put in place to protect. I know a really close loved one of mine. I talk about him all the time. but just as a person that has a very grim appearance, very mean, very angry. Okay, growing up, seeing this individual, how they responded, how they act with individuals, I learned just from not even trying. I'm a kid and I'm assessing these things. I'm learning that this person really had a lot of kindness inside, but because of trauma, and it's not always sexual trauma. That's what the ACE is about. It just blew up and didn't become about sexual trauma, just childhood trauma. Because of the trauma, this individual learned that the very thing that they essentially wanted out of life, as far as relationships, especially romantic relationships, was the very thing that they would sabotage by being mean and gruff and keeping people at a distance. Seems like sabotage, but in the therapy world, there is an explanation. Many times, these individuals are trying to protect themselves from what they anticipate might be a painful experience if they allow for themselves to be vulnerable to relationships. And it's because they have experienced abandonment, they have experienced abuse and things like that. And so let's take a look a little bit and see, because we got to wrap it up. Let's take a look here, and I'm going to try to share my screen with you at some of the things that were discovered. So this is what clinicians discovered, right? Is that in this experiment, weight gain had been a psychological adaptation. Okay. Obesity functioned as a protection. It helped them to feel invisible because they didn't want to be noticed. Why? Because being noticed when they were younger meant that they were being touched or abused, or they associated with that. And so unconsciously, they built a wall, a literal physical wall of obesity to keep people away. But the problem, what I was about to forget to mention, is that the reason that a lot of them were quitting the study once they started progressing, it wasn't just pure sabotage, but many of them, as they started to look nicer and more refined in a way that they wanted to look with the weight loss, once they start putting back the weight, they started to get more attention. And the attention was overwhelming because it put them back in a place of being uncomfortable. The last time that I got attention like this, what happened? Okay. Um, and so it's a real serious thing, man. I really hadn't it's another video that I may want to piggyback if I can pull it up. Because I just thought about it. You're thinking about the last time that I experienced something like this, something really bad happened. And I may save that one for the next one, okay? The last time I experienced something like this, something really bad happened. That feeling and emotion in itself is enough for individuals to sabotage situations that have no relevance to their past, okay? So, what protective behaviors do we develop? Because it's not just weight, right? But what protective mechanisms or protective behaviors do people develop consciously or consciously or unconsciously, to keep others from getting too close? And so this is where we have to bring the experience of what the Dr. Folletti and his team discovered with the ACEs and bring it to other practical situations, because this is not the only way that individuals who have experienced trauma of some nature sabotage relationships. Okay. All right. So, what are some other ways? Emotional distancing. This is what our clients are doing many times, emotionally distancing themselves from others. That's kind of what happened in the example that I just gave you of the loved one with the mean face and gruff and just running people away time after time. Trying to keep people from getting close because something happened. This is always pretty much an indication that there has been harm done, okay, in the past, okay. And some of the things that they may say to themselves, I don't feel much, or intellectualizing feelings instead of experiencing them is what they often is what happens to them. And many times they'll shut down when intimacy begins, okay. Protective belief that they might have, someone like this: if I don't feel, I can't be hurt. So the whole pursuit is to avoid being hurt. The whole reason why I'm not latching on to relationships is because an incident or several incidents, a whole bunch of incidents that happened in my childhood, I might be 60 years old now and still functioning as a child. Okay? Anger, irritability, or harshness. Kind of similar to what I was just saying here, too. Snapping, sarcasm. You ever met somebody that's just sarcastic because I don't know what, that you just kind of want to, ooh, you just think things. There is a reason behind that, and it may be protective. It may not be that they're trying to just be mean to you, but this is something that they do unconsciously to avoid getting too close. Hyper dependence. I don't need anyone. Okay. This is someone who many times is avoidant. Okay. Hyper independence, refuses help, avoids vulnerability, pride in doing everything alone. Oh man, I'm laughing because you know, I'm laughing. Pride in doing everything alone. Dismisses emotional needs. Look, the protective belief is needing people is too dangerous. It's too dangerous to need somebody. And I may come back next week and show you a little something about that. Needing someone is too dangerous. Man, I mean, and this is a serious thing. So we'll do come up with so many different things so that we don't have to need somebody. But what we're seeing this many times is rooted in trauma. It's not that when we think about our title, it's not at all that we are just trying to self sabotage. Okay. But many times we are trying to self protect. Okay. Self protect. I'm going to go through one more. It's a whole bunch of them. People pleasing. Okay. Well, I'll go through two, man. I got to stop. Ooh, wee. All right. People pleasing, over functioning. Okay, so with people pleasing, the function is that to maintain connection without being authentic. People pleasers aren't authentic. Okay, if that hit you, I'm sorry. People pleasers aren't authentic because you're doing things to please somebody else. A lot of those things you don't even want to do, but you're doing a lot of things out of fear, a fear of being abandoned, not accepted. You're frustrated because people mistreat you, okay, and you just take it and you keep doing, and we mix it up in our religion and things like that, but it has nothing to do with that. As far as why you're doing, it's not just because you love people, it's because you're seeking after relationships that out of fear, out of fear. So let's just keep it real, okay? And so that's what we work with. We get down to the bottom of that. Avoiding conflicts at all costs is what you do. Okay. Losing self in relationships is what you do because you have a protective belief that if I'm useful, I won't be abandoned, which means you experienced it at some point. And there's a fear there. Sexual behaviors, promiscuity, same thing, doing the same thing. This is as a function to control. I can keep you through this. So, boy, we can't get into that. Casual sex without emotional intimacy. Okay. Sexualization instead of emotional closeness. Avoiding attachment after sex. Okay. And the protective belief I can be desired without being known. Do they want to be known? Absolutely. But there's a fear of being known because the last time I felt known, bad things happen. We'll get into that. We got to stop. I do want to let you know about a few things that we have coming up. We do have, oh boy, I don't think I clipped it. We do have a training coming up. It is a free training. Okay. And you can get a free CEU. And let me see if I can pull that up really quickly. If you are part of Social Workers of Alabama. And in this particular training, we're going to be talking about none other than nonprofits. A lot of us want to start up nonprofits. We have a fear of doing this, right? But you're going to learn some steps about a nonprofit. And the title of this particular training is Raising a Nonprofit in an Early Child Childhood World. Raising a nonprofit. And we're talking about raising a nonprofit and building systems that care as much as we do. And we're excited about this particular training. So we want you to join us. It's on January 20th, in a few weeks. And it'll be presented by none other than Angela Webster. And that's January 20th, 5:30 to 6:30. And then we also have the supervisor training coming up March 23rd. And we're excited to train new supervisors. So if you're interested in building something, a situation where you can independently earn, we want you to come out to this training. It'll be online, but come and join us. And then lastly, we have the DSM-5 TR training, and we are hoping that if you're a clinical social worker and you're looking for CEUs, check us out with that. But we're going to end, and I hope that this has been helpful. Until next week.